Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peace Podcast. This is just let me learn to receive love, whatever that looks like. And so a lot of us have a really easy time showing love, extending love to others, just being a loving human being. But on the flip side, when that same love is shown to us and we are showered with that love, it is very difficult for us to receive the love. And sometimes we don't even identify that that's what's happening. And so today we're going to talk about how it is that we can long for love, want to receive it, but we just can't in our brains and in our emotions position ourselves in a stance to be able to allow it in. So there are psychological explanations behind this, but then there's also how past experiences have shaped our ability to receive love and what love even looks like to us. And even if that is the case, we can begin to open up to receiving safe, healthy, connected love, even if it's something we haven't experienced before. So the reason that this happens, the reason that love feels so foreign to us is because in our formative years, love had a meaning then that we now know created pain and wasn't actually safe. And so what we identified as love, what we experienced as love, we were able to receive it when we were in those formative years, because when you're a child, you long for love and attention, and you take whatever is given to you and identify that as love, even if it is some of the most horrendous things that we've ever seen or heard about. It still feels like love in those years. And then when you know better and you do better and you recognize that that wasn't love, you start to associate love with unsafeness. And also, when you experience safe love, it feels so foreign that you don't know how to receive it. But there is a way to make it happen. And first, you have to identify when you're doing it to even understand what's going on. So it may be something as simple as somebody trying to help you, right? So that's an act of service. They want to do that for you, and you just can't receive the help because in your formative years, you earned love. You earned that experience that you thought was love by being hyper independent and doing everything yourself. Or maybe for the person who's trying to show love to you, that looks like quality time. So they want to spend a bunch of time with you. But in your formative years, when you spent time with people, that meant unsafety and unpredictability. So you feel more comfortable being alone. So quality time feels like you're allowing or opening the door to uncertainty and unpredictability. So it feels better to just be by yourself. So you aren't actually able to receive that quality time. And things like words of affirmation, where people are affirming you, telling you when you do something well, or telling you just that they love you because you're existing, feels like unsafeness, because in your formative years, when someone told you that they loved you, you believed them, but then their actions showed something different. So you learned to distrust people's words because those words of affirmation meant nothing in previous situations. And so what did we talk about? Acts of service, quality time, words of affirmation, gifts. You might have a really hard time receiving gifts from people because it makes you feel guilty. Maybe in those formative years, you knew how much work the person had to do or how much money the person had to spend, and that was taking it from somewhere else because you recognized that your situation was void of monetary safety. And so you started to feel guilty about the gifts that you receive. Whatever. And then, of course, physical touch can have a whole slew of things. If you grew up in an environment where people didn't really hug and they didn't really, show their affection physically, then when you come to these stages and somebody's super touchy-feely, it feels weird to you. It feels like something that is uncomfortable. And so because we associate what we know today about love based on how love was presented to us and our exposure to it in those formative years, sometimes you want to receive the love, but when people are showing it to you in safe ways, it feels foreign and it feels unsafe, and you have the tendency to push it away even when that's not what you're actually trying to do. The first thing we need to understand about receiving, and this is just receiving in general, is that it requires a certain level of vulnerability, right? So if you're receiving help, if you're receiving gifts, if you're receiving acts of service, whatever it is, you have to be vulnerable enough and open enough to have the conversations where somebody can truly see you. And research shows that emotional closeness requires that openness. So if we want to be close to people, we have to be open, but sometimes for people who had tough formative years, that can feel unsafe if your past has relational wounds inside of it. So in order to keep myself protected, I have to keep myself closed off. And though I may not be 100% wholly closed off, I'm still creating those walls in certain places where I feel like I need to be more protected. But if you want to be able to receive love, then you have to be able to allow yourself to be seen. And the only way that you can allow yourself to be seen is to be truly and honestly open. Because what happens in a space where you lack vulnerability is that you don't trust the love, because you know that the love that you're receiving is attached to an individual that you're pretending to be and not your true authentic self. So then that creates a cycle, because then you're afraid to be truly vulnerable, because you think that if somebody truly sees you, then that person may not continue to love you, even though it's hard for you to receive the love that they're giving, because they don't fully know you. So you like the love, you want to receive the love, you appreciate the love that you're getting from them, but you also know that that love is attached to a representative that you're putting out into the world that isn't your true authentic self. So when your relationships lack vulnerability, then you don't actually trust the person who's loving you, because you don't trust them to love the version of you that hasn't fully been shown to them yet. And so if you want to truly feel what it's like to receive safe love, then you first have to understand that vulnerability is what needs to happen in order to create what safe love feels like. Because you want someone to love you and to give you what feels like true love in a safe environment by being your authentic self, because that feels like love. Even if they don't know that you're being a representative, you subconsciously know that this isn't the true authentic version of you. So you can't feel that that love is safe enough to receive, because you're not even truly being your authentic self. You don't even feel safe enough to be yourself in that environment. So if you want to receive love, then the first thing you have to realize is that receiving love, receiving goodness and kindness from another individual is going to require you to be fully exposed and vulnerable to that person. The second thing is that we have to understand that the brain will resist unfamiliar emotional experiences. So if you've never experienced safe love, your brain initially will process that as something that could be unsafe. The brain prefers what is familiar to it, even if what is familiar to it is unhealthy. And this is why we say it's the devil that I know. I know what my role is in this relationship. I know how to navigate these type of people. So I'm going to continue to be in relationship with unhealthy people is all part of the devil we know. Our brain wants what is familiar to it because it knows how to keep us safe in that environment. We don't even have to think about how to keep ourselves safe with people who are very similar to the people that we grew up with in childhood. There's no surprise in that environment. Our brains instinctually do what we know to do in those spaces. We get quieter, we shrink, we become less of who we actually are. Our authenticity goes away because we know how to maneuver that environment and what role to play in that environment. So when you start to experience something that is different, even if it feels better, your brain doesn't know what to do with it initially. Now, again, there's hope because you can change that, but currently that might be the space that you're resting in. Because if love felt inconsistent or conditional in the past, like you had to earn it, then healthy love may feel uncomfortable, unfamiliar, suspicious. You might just start to be hypervigilant in those spaces. Maybe your suspicion creates stories in your brain that aren't necessarily true. Oh, they're only doing this because they want something. That came from your earning environment where you had to earn your love. Or I don't know how to rest in this. It feels weird that this person is doing all these things for me. I should be doing something. I need to do more and be more. All of that is because your brain is simply unfamiliar with safe love. And we often resist what is healthy because it feels unfamiliar. But once we start to familiarize ourselves, write a list of what we used to think love was, but what we want love to mean for us now, and start to navigate more toward what we want it to mean for us now, that will be a step in the right direction of familiarizing ourselves with healthy love instead of sitting in our familiarity with the unsafe love that we've experienced in the past. Another thing that we need to note is that your oxytocin strengthens your safe connection. Oxytocin is your bonding chemical in your brain, and it increases when we start to experience safe, positive connections. It'll reduce your stress, it will build trust over time, and safe relationships can help to regulate your nervous system. So the more you're in those spaces, the more your body, before your brain even knows it, will start to rest in its ability to just be and relax and feel calm when you're around the people who are loving you well. And eventually you'll be able to lean into that intuition to determine who you can be vulnerable with and who you need to remain closed off with based on just what your body does when you're in those environments. Right now, you can't quite trust that because most people are going to make your nervous system feel dysregulated because you just don't trust the people who say they love you to actually love you and love you well, because that's what you've experienced in your past. But when you experience healthy love, when you allow yourself to be connected to that person and your oxytocin levels increase, your brain will start to realize that your nervous system can relax and that you can be safe. And that requires only opening a window to allow that person the opportunity to sit next to you and be with you and listen to you, so that the chemical will release, the hormone will release, and it will start to make you trust that you're safe with this person. And then you're able to understand how you can open up to them. You're able to feel familiar in that environment, but you first have to open yourself up just a little bit to experience that consistency over time so that your body can relax and be calm, and then your brain can catch up to it, and you can collect that pattern of behavior and that pattern in the relationship as safety. And then lastly, something that we really gloss over sometimes is that in relationship, your self-worth contributes to a lot of your responses to people and relationship. So if your self-worth is in a negative space, it's going to impact your ability to receive love. Because people who struggle with self-worth will often do things like deflect when people are giving them comments, downplay people's kindness, maybe even feel undeserving of the things that people are doing for them. Because receiving love is a deeply connected environment. And it is not just connected to the other person, but it's connected to your belief system and the understanding and the absorption that you actually deserve the love that you're receiving. And if your self-worth is low, if it has been affected by the familial system that you're in, or the relationships that you had in your past, or the way that you're being treated at work, all of those things can create tiny droplets of insecurity resting in your system. And so that makes it really difficult for you to envision that somebody can see something in you that you don't even see in yourself. And so when someone tells you that you're lovable, but you've been told your whole life that you're not, then you rest in the unlovable message because it's been on replay and repeat for, however many decades you've been on this earth. And it's hard to consider that somebody does think you're lovable because you've been told, and then you've felt your entire life that there are reasons for you to not be loved. And I think too, it really requires us to assess our true definition of love, because love means, in spite of flaws, in spite of sin, in spite of all of these things, I still want to be here with you and partner with you and love you through the process of these things. And if we think that love is conditional, and love is based on an earning system, and love is based on, how mad your guardian is with your siblings, and then you get moved on the totem pole of love, then all of that affects your ability to receive that in the here and now, because you think this is conditional. This is suspicious. This is going to be taken away, so I don't want to get too used to it. But to truly receive it, you have to believe that you are the things that other people are saying about you, and that you deserve somebody to come into your space and help you and buy you flowers and do nice things for you, and that you are capable of receiving and being loved in that environment, because perfection has never been what you were supposed to embody, but your self-worth has always been tied to what your level of perfection in that moment, what you deem to be how close you are to perfection. So if you're having a struggle receiving it and the person is doing all of the right things, it's probably time to assess on the self-worth meter where you actually are with believing who you are and how you are and whose you are makes you a lovable human being, because that's going to create a roadblock if you don't believe it to be true. Because we do desire a deep connection, but subconsciously, we may push it away because it's really hard for us to believe that it's real, believe that we deserve to receive it, and believe that the people who are saying that they love us actually are going to love us in a healthy way. So this shows up for me often because I have a really tough time receiving help from people, because I've always been super hyper independent. I know that it's a trauma response. I know that it's attached to gaining and earning love. I know all of that to be true. I know that it was instilled in me at a very early age, but I have a hard time believing that when someone helps you, that there are no strings attached to that help. That has been something that I've contended with for decades now, and it's deeply rooted in there. So when someone offers to help me, I find myself trying to assist them in the help so that they can't come back and say that they did it all, right? That they did this thing for me and now I owe them something. I feel like I need to put my hands in it, so I'm also helping them. And that shows up in a negative way in my current relationship, because he is a helper by nature. And so to show love, he does acts of service. And so even today, as a prime example, my light was out in my car, and girl, I don't do nothing, not a thing with cars. If it goes when I press the gas pedal, I'm here for it. And everything else, I'm just kind of like, I don't really know. And it's not because I don't know anything about cars. It's just because it's really not something that I like focus on. I got other things to do. I just need this thing to get me from point A to point B. Like, it's not really, there's nothing else that I really desire out of this contraption. And so anyway, my headlight was out. I didn't know that the headlight was out, and I happened to be driving when it was raining, and he noticed that the headlight was out. And so he was like, let me follow you to the parts store. I'll go in and get the part, and then I'll fix it for you really quickly. Like, it seemingly was like this super easy thing. But in my brain, that level of love to be received without me doing anything felt off. And so we get to the car parts store. I get out of the car with him, and he's like, why are you getting out? I can go in here. And I was like, well, I don't want you to feel like you have to pay for it. And he was like, I don't feel like I have to. I am. And I was like, well, you don't have to do that. Like, basically explaining my way out of him doing the thing that was loving for me, because I frantically was like, well, I don't want you to do this thing for me, and then I feel like I owe something because you've done this thing, which is so silly, because that's not even the way our relationship runs, but it's deeply rooted in there. And so he was like, well, you can come in the store with me, but you're not. I'm purchasing this. I told you I was doing it. I'm doing it. So I go in the store, and he's saying all these car words that I don't know anything about. And I was like, okay, well, I guess it's time to go out to the car. So I go out to the car, and he fixes it in like 5 minutes, because it was like super easy, pop off, pop on type of situation. And then he has all the things in his hands, and I go to unlatch the hood to close it because his hands are full. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, literally, I'm on a dress. We just left church. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm going to shut the hood. And he's like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, your hands are full and you did all the things. And he was like, if you don't, go sit back in that car and just let me help you. But in my brain, that is so hard to receive, because I'm on autopilot to be hyper independent, so that there are no strings attached to anything that happens in my world. And also, the secondary messaging there is so that I don't burden other people. But when you have that outlook and you have that inability to receive someone's love, you are robbing them of the ability to love you well, because you won't open up the space to allow it to happen. So I encourage you this week to do these things to try to help you into the space, not fully open, because I know that that is a shift from one polarity to the other. But when someone gives you a compliment, or when someone supports you, or when someone is kind to you, or when someone helps you, let your only response be, thank you. Because I know that if you're anything like me in that environment, or any of the other environments that we've spoken about, when someone gives you a compliment, you have to give them an explanation or push away their compliment. Or when someone is supportive of you, or they're helpful to you, you have to put your hands in it, because you don't want to feel like you owe them something or there are strings attached. If someone is kind to you, then you question their motives and look at it as suspicious, because you don't know how to receive it. And you do this whole overthinking process. This week, I encourage you, when someone is being loving toward you, just respond with a thank you. And then when you walk away, tell yourself that you are lovable and you are deserving of love, regardless of what the people around you have told you is true. Because sometimes the hardest part of love is not in the giving it, but in the receiving it. But we are worthy of love. We are capable of receiving it. It's just going to take a little bit of work to being authentic, to being able to rest in the calmness of being with somebody so you can trust the process, to being able to create familiarity with real, safe love, and to be able to understand our own worth so that we believe that we deserve the love that we're receiving. I hope this video helps, and if you're able to, go to my socials, follow me there, like and subscribe to this page, and share this message with someone who it may benefit, because knowledge gained and kept to yourself is selfish, but shared with the world could just be the catalyst for change that someone needs to break free from the bondage that they're in, surrender it over to God, and live a life of freedom. Thank you guys so much for tuning in every week, and I'll see you again next time.